Okay, so we can go ahead and start, I guess. My name is Rita. Thanks everyone for joining. Um, I am Rita Khait, and I'm Director of Customer Enablement at Zoomin. And a little bit about me, why you should listen to me today or not, is first of all, I'm a lifelong learner. I enjoy learning, and I am reading a lot of research. I've been studying psychology, and then been in the realm of L&D and now customer enablement for the last decade. And I believe in data-driven decision making. And I think that decisions supported by real data can go a long way. And I guess that's why during the last couple of years, I've been leading research and consulting initiatives in Zoomin. And what Zoomin does is that we are a content delivery platform that provides a secure and personalized way for product documentation experiences. And on our side, we've been talking to numerous customers from the documentation industry and managed to get a picture of what people are trying to present, how to present the value of technical documentation, and what kind of impact the technical documentation can actually have on the business. And last but not least, I enjoy helping customers and celebrating their success. And we'll talk today about how to celebrate your success and also how to get to collaborate with different departments that you might have not reached before, not just support, maybe marketing and sales as well, and how to get this conversation going and getting to results like support cost savings or new revenue growth. So before we dive into the presentation, I want to make sure that you have your phones ready in case you want to scan the barcodes. I will be presenting some research throughout the way and some numbers. And if you want to dive into these numbers, feel free to scan and get the research paper. They are leading specifically to the research paper, not any landing pages and so on. All right, so what is content ROI methodology? The way we see it at Zoomin, it is a way to measure and monetize the impact of documentation on your company's critical business goals. So we will be talking not just about the goals that you set for your department, but more for what kind of things other departments want to see from documentation. Is it support cost savings? Is it new leads? Or something like that. And we will try to tackle on how to monetize, not just to measure, percentages of growth or things like that, but how to measure actual dollar value impact. Okay, I see that someone asked, Ruth asked to put the links to the chat. I can do it after the session. I can send you direct links to the reports as well. I can do that. All right. Now let's talk about what kind of impact we've been seeing of documentation on the business. This is the research that we've done in 2022, and it has showed that 90% of customers actually reference content before purchasing. Think about that. You also might have purchased something in your life, right? And you want to go ahead and figure out what is this provider that you want to buy from, right? Is it good enough? Is it providing all the necessary things that you want to see inside the product? And same for the B2B. The techier the person is on the other side, the more they're into self-service and more into researching things online. This means that they are going to your documentation the more they progress in their purchasing journey. And some of our customers have even seen their traffic being on the same level as the traffic to their .com site. And again, as they progress in their purchasing journey, they might want to not go to the .com site, but rather go to your documentation and start researching what is the competitive advantages that you offer that others don't. And the research paper is attached here on the right side. Now let's look at the purchasing journey. I've just mentioned that it starts from awareness and knowing what your customers, who you are as a company, and what do we want to see inside your company. And then learning more about your business, evaluating you versus competitors, all the way to buying. And when it gets to buying and then later implementing, it's when your documentation is used the heaviest. So we've actually seen inside analytics of our customers that as they get to the purchasing decision making, the documentation can be referenced twice more, 3 times more. And then during the implementation stage, of course, this is how your product gets adopted. And this is where your documentation plays a crucial role. And then, of course, all the way to, usual usage, getting help. And then later on, expansion and renewal. If your documentation had provided enough confidence and trust, this is actually becoming the #1 source where your users go to, not to your support. And you can think of all the ways your documentation helps on each and every stage of the way, and what kind of documentation you currently have, and maybe some of the documentation that is currently missing, and maybe you should tackle upon that. And we'll talk more about the value and ROI behind each and every step here. Now, I've mentioned methodology, and we've developed a clear 4 steps framework for content value realization. It starts with choosing your KPIs and identifying the KPIs and data that you want to measure. Then you're figuring out how to capture that data, and then how to present it and quantify, monetize, and at the end to showcase, put it on a slide or 1 page or whatever you want. And I will cover today all these 4 steps. Feel free to write your questions in the chat as we go. Let's start with the first one. When we talk about what kind of KPIs exist there, I personally think of these 3 big pillars, so to say. First is the infrastructure KPIs. These are the core KPIs that you can get on performance of every site, depending on who your documentation site provider is, or just Google Analytics, things like that. Then we talk about efficiency and cost reduction KPIs. These are the types of KPIs that you might need the help of your support or other organizations within your company. And then we can talk about revenue growth KPIs, and these are the types of KPIs that brings new customers, all the first part of the user journey that you saw in the previous slide. Now let's take a look at each of those pillars. First one is infrastructure KPIs. And when we think of infrastructure KPIs, this is not a full list, but the majority of things that can be measured. And I'm sure that you are measuring at least some of them now, such as traffic. You usually get traffic results from very basic analytics tools. And it is a powerful way to see, how you are progressing. Is it better than last year? Is it better than last quarter? What is the what are you seeing? What is the data showing you? Search KPIs. So not only traffic, who your users are, but also what they are searching, right? How many sessions with search do you have? Among them, what is the ratio of, searches to landing on topics? Or what is the searches without results? Can we measure those? Can we look at those? And click-through rate, which is the #1 thing that everyone thinks, on a marketing realm, right? Like, is it the content good enough? They think of click-through rate. Then we think about content KPIs, and here we can look at customer satisfaction scores, page views, pages with engagement, and last but not least, all the web vitals from SEO to accessibility. if we are talking about efficiency and cost reduction, we can think of IT and cloud costs, how much the maintenance of all your systems that you're working with costs, how much it costs to create, one consolidated platform. What is better? What kind of things you've managed to save due to this consolidation and acceleration. Then if you have M&A activity, how your documentation helps reduce costs there and improve productivity. Then we can talk about support, and here the main things that we can tackle are cases, case resolution, and case deflection. You can also measure self-service rate, average handling times, and other things that support care for. And of course, last but not least here, is the productivity of your team. What is the publishing time? Are you improving your publishing time? What is the QA and implementation time? And or are you supporting onboarding internal employees of your team or of your support team, any other team that is heavily involved with documentation? And the third pillar is revenue and growth KPIs. And here we usually think about awareness, number of leads that your documentation brings, conversion rate, time to market. Then how are you influencing the buying journey? Do you have any estimation around that? Maybe we can measure pages with engagement for specific customers that are during the onboarding stage. Then the usage of your portal, of your documentation for product adoption, for self-service, what is the performance score that your users are giving you? And last but not least is retention. What is the CSAT score? Have your CSAT score changed drastically after you made some improvements to the documentation flow, to the end user performance and things like that? Now, from all the lists that I showed you, I usually recommend to figure out a short list, not more than 10, usually it's around 6 to 8 KPIs that you want to focus on in the first iteration, at least. Not everything that can be counted counts. Not everything that you want to measure will be relevant to your business owners. Figure out what they are interested in. What are the company goals for this year? Are they focused on cost reduction or new business? And how are you currently supporting those initiatives? And make sure it reflects your company values and goals for this year. Then focus on the KPIs that are realistically to measure. We've had several calls with customers when we just got to the point when it's too hard. Too many spreadsheets, you can't align data one to another. Make sure that the data that you are collecting is super clear and understandable to measure. If not, then just park it for another quarter, another half a year. Keep it at the back of your mind. Maybe you can improve some processes on how to measure that. And then we suggest to build a full rounded story, all from the basic performance of your site to a cost reduction and then to revenue growth. Usually when you think of how you present it to your higher leadership, your executives, they don't have a long attention span. So make sure all the main performance that you want to demonstrate, all the main improvements that you've done, the story you want to tell, can get to one slide. And this is the story that I want to tell today. Now, the second step, after you've decided what kind of KPIs you want to choose from this long list, is data capturing. So you've decided that you can actually capture the numbers, and let's think of how you can do that. There are 3 main sources of data as we see it. First one is analytics of your site. It can be documentation portal analytics, it can be Google Analytics, or any other vitals that you can get. You can measure SEO score just by having Google installed, right? Then you can have stakeholders data. This is when you will need to reach out to other departments for additional information, such as the number of tickets that were resolved, could have been resolved with documentation, start the conversation with support around that, and other stakeholders. And the third pillar is your internal documentation KPIs, your internal data, such as what is your publishing time, how much it takes you to review one publication, several publications, things around that. If you haven't started measuring it and putting it into the spreadsheet, now is about time to do it. It's good to have data, even if you won't start showcasing it right away, to have it in the back of your mind to show the progress later on. Now, let's talk about how to quantify and monetize the data that you have collected. So you have selected your KPIs, ended up with a long spreadsheet of numbers. How do you put it in a dollar value, the things that you can? Because at the end of the day, the dollars is what actually important for your business. And let's see some examples here. We will look at case resolution and case deflection, because this is the number one thing that is super easy and clear to showcase in dollars. It is also very rewarding. Let's talk about how rewarding it is, right? When it comes to types of tickets that your support gets, it can be from how-to tickets all the way to bugs and product limitations or requests for new features. But what the data shows, and this was a TSAA research, is that up to over 50% of tickets could be tackled by documentation. So definitely the how-to tickets are those the tickets that you should pay great attention to, but also installation and configuration could have been resolved by documentation. And some of them are easily resolved for sure. So if we go back to the dollar values, around 50% of current costs could have been reduced by improving documentation and improving process of delivering that documentation to the end user. And at the end of the day, if the customer is resolving the issue quickly, they become happier, they become more trusting in your brand, which leads to better revenue at the end of the day. So two main metrics that I want to tackle on today. First is case deflection, and we'll talk about explicit case deflection. And the second one is case resolution, and we'll talk about that as well. Now, case deflection, explicit case deflection. Imagine yourself as a user having a very specific question, and you go ahead and you open a ticket form, and you start typing your subject, and start typing your question, and next to it you get recommended search results. Now imagine you see the result that you want to see right in here, and you click on it and you resolve your issue, and that is explicit case deflection. So you have resolved your question without the need to contacting support, and your ticket was never submitted. This kind of tickets are very easy to measure. You see the number, the actual number of cases deflected. You see, or you can estimate the cost per tier 1 ticket, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And then you can just multiply it and see the actual savings by explicit case deflection. Very straightforward. Now, how do we get to what is the number of the dollars that you've been saving with having your documentation available? Some data shows that tickets resolved by documentation through case deflection is actually way, way, way cheaper than any other form of support. So you can take this number and reference that. This is that data from TSIA, which is $4 as opposed to whatever your support ticket costs. It can be from $150 for a chat message to up to $600 for an email with, tier 2 or something like that. Another way to look at it is to see how many tickets do you receive for each level of support. Usually you have tier 1, tier 2, and several tiers of support. So you can calculate how many of knowledge related or how-to tickets actually get to tier 1 or to tier 2. What is their average hourly salary, and what is the average handling time? And based on that, you can calculate a clear number of how much a case costs for your organization. And we wrote an entire white paper on that. You can go ahead and scan this code and get to step-by-step calculation of the cost per ticket. Now, if the ticket was never submitted, then this is your dollar saved. However, if the ticket was resolved by documentation, this is also your dollar saved, right? After the user submitted a ticket, your support agent didn't have to waste all his time to type the answer, to find this answer. Maybe the answer was recommended to him in the support panel. Maybe he has clear access to your documentation on the documentation side, and it's a matter of copy pasting the relevant link to the case. And this is the dollars that they are saving because of the average handling time going from 1 hour to 5 minutes. And here is an example of how this can be showcased, and some of our customers were able to tackle upon it. This part here is the explicit case deflection. The other part on the right side is the cost savings with tickets being resolved by documentation. Okay, now let's talk about revenue and growth KPIs. And when we talk about revenue, one of the easiest ways to measure revenue is by measuring the number of leads that get to your documentation site. Usually in some documentation portals and with some customers that we are talking to, we suggest them to add some sort of CTA, especially for those documentation portals that are publicly facing, to have a CTA, to request a demo or something around that, to make the documentation site a second place. Sometimes it's the number one place that actually generates new leads. And if you remember the slide that I showed you at the beginning, that 90% of your customers are actually referencing documentation before purchase, it means that this is a very important thing to keep in mind and to start talking to your marketing about if you haven't already, to talk about revenue generation through the docs. And it can be with request a demo button, and you can track how many requests were sent, what is the average price per lead, and then calculate the dollar value of how many leads you've gotten and how many revenue you brought through having documentation publicly available. Another way is to measure maybe views on specific topic pages where you have more CTAs, more documentation that was developed for that particular part of the purchasing journey for your leads, and then measure the conversion rate around that. One of the research that we did last year was around how gated portals are performing versus public portals, and actually how beneficial they are. And two of the things that I want to highlight here is, first, when your documentation is publicly available, case deflection rate improves exponentially. And then also the number of pages views improves pretty much in half, which means that yes, more people are coming to your documentation, and not just coming, they are reading through your documentation, then they want to have this documentation available. So how do we actually calculate those numbers? This is an example of how we do it above. So we take the number of returning users, 1 out of 100, meaning we know exactly that we have around 10 users per customer, and then the conversion rate is around like 1%. So it will get us to 100. And then SaaS selling price is around 30 to 50K, depending on your product. And the number of returning users, because returning users are those who are actually important in the to keep track of during the purchasing journey, during the part when they becoming lead and actively buying, they are coming to your documentation more and more often. Some users are coming twice more often, others 3 times more often before like one last month of purchase. And then you can make it your own, make this data your own. So figure out what is the number of returning users that you have, what is your conversion rate. You can go ahead and ask your marketing, what is your conversion rate, or track the conversion rate in your industry, and what is the selling price of your product. Then multiply it all together, and then you get to the ROI revenue growth. Here is an example that we managed to showcase with one of our customers just about last month. And it is really exciting to see these numbers. And what it did, it opened up additional conversations with marketing that they never had before. Marketing understood how important this asset is. And the customer started working together with the marketing on very specific topic pages to align to the customer journey and make sure that they are answering the right questions in the right place. Now, another example that I want to show is around publishing time and implementation time. And this is something that you can definitely measure yourself. And this is just on your team. You don't need involvement of anyone else. Here is an example of how to calculate publishing costs. So what you need to do is to take time to publish before and after some event, right? So imagine you've implemented another touch point, or you have just created another flow of your content, and you want to measure that. So you take time to publish times writer's hourly fee times the number of publications that you are publishing. And make sure that you are also counting in, like you see here in the after numbers, you're calculating for the future as well. So estimating, like today we're publishing 80 publications, but our business is growing and we need to publish to 60 next time. So how much time it will take us to publish with this current new process that is saving us time and eventually money, and how much time would it take us to publish the same amount of content with our old processes. So some of our customers showing that they've reduced the publishing time from 4 hours to half an hour, right, or to 30 minutes. And if you look at the dollar value of that, it is actually showing some really good numbers. It's a really good dollar value. And then maybe if you calculate it into the cost of your tool, then you see the ROI of that tool. And it's not that, much money as you thought it is. And if you also count into that all the maintenance costs that you are saving and other things that you are saving, like in example here, the Shiji had a really good example of calculating the entire team's efficiency from publishing and review process that they also done within the portal to implementation. And they have a lot of M&A activities and other stuff. And with more efficient processes, they're actually able to save almost 300,000 every year. Now, let's talk about how to showcase the value. And I've showed you some examples already, but I want to just you to come out with a clear picture of 1, 2, 3, 4, what to keep in mind. First, that I suggest to do is to showcase growth, the before and after numbers. And it can be before you publish something or before like beginning of the year and end of the year. Then another way is to show just one steady number. If it is a compelling enough number, why not show it? Even if it doesn't improve over time, it is still very good when it's saving money or it's saving some, giving you some efficiency or things around that. Another way is to compare yourself over the benchmark of technical documentation performance, and we'll take a look at that. And last but not least is to monetize, show just the dollar value, what I've already presented to you. Okay, now let's look at the example of growth in traffic. So imagine you go to your tool, whatever it is, and you see traffic for January last year being 10,000 sessions. Then you look at traffic in December, so at the end of the year, you see 20,000 sessions. And just with a simple calculation, you get to 100% growth in traffic. And just by showing it one simple number, one short description next to it, you don't leave any room for doubt, you don't leave any room for questions, or it's very easy to understand and it grabs your attention. Another way to showcase is to show charts and graphs. What I like about charts and graphs, they can show you very good, growth. It's very visual, but I suggest if you are using a one-pager to present all of your numbers, don't do more than 2 charts because it becomes overwhelming. It's this is the thing that drives most of your viewers' attention. So use charts and pie charts, graphs for things that are very, very important to you. They take very big amount of space on your one page, on your presentation, and people want to dive into it. What is the number that is shown here above, right? What is the legend? So make sure to have this for things that show good growth, big percentages, things like that. Okay. Another example is how to show steady numbers. If I looked at, for example, results clicked, and this is results clicked is a very important metric, at least what I think of it, is your pure self-service. So the user searched for something very specific and got recommended results, clicked on it, ideally read it, and left without submitting a ticket. So this is your pure self-service with documentation. And even if you don't see this number increase, but it's a good steady number, feel free to showcase it. And show it big, be proud of it, and write some nice legend next to it saying that it is your self-service number and users are searching for reading available content, they're happy. Okay, and the last example here is that you can compare yourselves with a benchmark. We have last year we released the first technical content benchmark report that is built on over 60 million users now of technical documentation all around the world. And later this month we'll be releasing another updated version for 2024. And imagine if you looked at your numbers and you see that your pages are actually having 61% of engagement compared to the industry benchmark of 14%. And what we mean by engagement is everything from downloading to PDF or to sharing it with other people, clicking likes, share, comment. And why not showcase it? Why not showcase that you are actually performing way above the benchmark and be happy about it? And maybe your leadership was asking you around that, and now you can compare yourself and showcase that. Here is an example of how we did it with one of our customers. Okay, and last but not least, the dollar value. I've already showed you a bunch of dollar values here. This is how we showcase dollar value, just one big number, usually add some kind of legend to it. And dollars are usually those that are getting most attention and most questions from the leadership. They want to know how you came up with this dollar value. So make sure you know to the T how you actually put this number together. And at the end of your journey, you come up with a one-pager. We like to do PDFs that you can send over by email, or if you're presenting it in a presentation, just use this kind of layout, nice and simple, in one page, showing all of the results, all of the story you did, from just general traffic to cost savings and revenue growth. This is it content-wise. I assume you might have questions, so I'm here to answer any of the questions that you might have. Can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, I believe I will be able to share with you some of the slides.
It was a lot of information, and it was really very cool. So yeah, a copy of the slides, a PDF or something. If you could attach it to the presentation, then we can access it and really like start calculating for ourselves. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we also include the links to as long as I'm sending the PDF already, I will include the links to this as well, so that you can go ahead and read the research if you want to. And I really hope you will start, showcasing your value and being proud of yourself and your team, and also start conversations with the teams that you haven't started talking to before, and this is the end goal of you collaborating more with other departments and making sure the documentation actually either solves the problem or helps bring you revenue. Thank you everyone for joining.